How do we move past imposter syndrome though? Now that we know what it is, now that we know what it isn't, how do we get ourselves together to move past it? First, you need to understand where imposter syndrome comes from. Where did it start? Now, we already show that there's some societal structural things that can bring imposter syndrome on. And to me, that's not imposter syndrome. That's just a fault with our society that needs to be addressed and is being addressed little bit by little bit. Probably not fast enough. Could go a little faster. So where does this all come from? Apart from that, it starts, as you would probably think, in childhood. It starts particularly with kids who are pressured a lot to achieve at school or in sports or in the arts, whether they showed some talent at running as a kid and then they got really hard, push really, really hard to the point where they just couldn't do it anymore and they either gave it up or they kept going regardless. Students who are very good at maths, who, anything less than 100% in an exam was a failure. Or it could be, in the arts, they could be a ballet dancer and she could have been dancing ballet and loving ballet, but over time being told that, you're not good enough, you need to perform better, you need to go better, no, that's not good enough, that's not big enough, you need to lose more weight. All those things that gather up to become a problem end up being something that that child takes into their adult life. And you think, of course, you want your children to achieve, you want your children to achieve high, but this is sometimes the offset of that. Sometimes without the positive affirmation of what they've been doing, if you're just pressuring through negative and not some positive affirmation, this can come out later in life as imposter syndrome. Another one is controlling or violent parenting. This is naturally going to cause a whole lot of other problems in life. This is not just imposter syndrome. There's neuroses and psychoses that come about this. Severe psychological and psychiatric trauma can be shown in this. But this is not what we're talking about. I'm just talking about controlling and violent parenting, which is somehow trying to drive a child to achieve. It's like taking the previous kind of parent and amping it up by 100 to the point where you're punishing people. You're punishing small people, your children, to perform so hard and so well that when they do perform hard and well without you, they'll feel like an imposter because they go, oh, I only got here because my parents, drove me to it. I only got here because I was punished until I did it. I only got here because I had no choice. They'll never take any responsibility for their achievements, even as adults, like 30, 40 years after the abuse, because they'll always have to track it back to, oh, I didn't really have much choice. I always had to. If I didn't, I'd get whacked, I'd get smacked, I'd get beaten up. So this kind of thing is really, really dangerous and it can come from here. So if you've got any of this in your background, I really do take my hat off to you because you've come a long, long way. And anyone that you've got a bit of this issue with imposter syndrome, we all get it from somewhere. An unbalanced emphasis on our child's natural talent can often lead to that whole, what they call the natural genius part of being imposter syndrome. This is where a kid can just be really good at something. Let's just say they're really good at playing the piano. They just naturally took it up and just knew what they were doing with it. And then given some guidance, they were able to do better with it and better with it and better with it until the point where they have to really work hard to compete in things like a Stedfords and doing concerts and in competitions or in exams when they're going through the AMEB examination processes, that they will then have to go a little bit beyond just that natural talent. So what they will do quite often is go, well, I didn't really work hard for this. I've just got natural talent because everyone keeps telling me I've got natural talent. Now, whilst shining a light on people who are naturally talented and while encouraging people who are talented to continue their talent, putting an unnecessarily unbalanced and over the top emphasis on how very talented they are over and over and over again, being told, you're so talented, you're so talented, you're so talented, then negates the hard work they've had to do as well. If you're just getting told that you won that because you're so talented, not because you worked your butt off to do it, in later life, that will show out for you as being a problem. Then you'll be, oh no, I'm just naturally good at this, I guess. So I don't really have to work that hard. So I guess it makes me feel like a bit of a fraud because everyone else around me has to work their butts off. But no, to me, this is just easy. This can really harm you later in life. Another area it comes from is sharply criticize mistakes, not just from parents. I'm going to give the parents a bit of a break here. It can be teachers, it could be mentors, it could be anyone in your life who made it so that a mistake, and it could be in your adult life. This isn't just a kids thing. This is right through adulthood. It could be your first years in university. It could be your first job, the first day of your job when you make an epic mistake and you're sharply criticized for it. And that immediately makes you think, I shouldn't be here. I'm a fraud for being here. I don't even know how I got this job. It's weird. I'm just not meant to be here, but I guess I got to push on because I've got the job now. You can see how that can stack up over time, and you make another mistake and you get that reinforced to you again and again and again for every single mistake you make. And trust me, right throughout career and right throughout building a business, you are going to make some whopper mistakes. And if you're going to keep bashing yourself and calling yourself a fraud and a fake and a failure every time you do make those mistakes, it does add up. Repeated behaviors cause repeated habits, and those habits then shape your life. So if your habits are to beat yourself up and call yourself a fake and a fraud because you made a mistake in something, that's going to keep, it's just going to keep cycling around again and again and again, and further packing down that attitude in your life like cement. So it's really hard to break through later in life. If you attack these things early in your life, they're really easy to undo. When you attack them in your 40s and 50s, like I'm assuming a lot of us here on this call are, then you've got that problem where you're so used to doing things that way and so used to thinking that way that it almost feels wrong to think any other way. And that comes from all the things that have happened to us and things we've taken on. High performers in primary and high school, these are a particularly good case because you hear it often said as, oh, she peaked in high school or he peaked in primary school. They were like a shining light, a really smart kid in primary school and high school and went going amazing, and then got to university or TAFE or something like that and just kind of crashed. Just wasn't them, because then they got there, they realized that this natural talent, this natural ability they had to get through high school and primary school right through into university wasn't going to cut it in the real world. So they feel like, oh my God, I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, I'm a failure. I've just been coasting all my way through life. Now I've hit this brick wall. Who am I? I'm an absolute failure and I'm an absolute fraud. And that's where the imposter syndrome can kick in for so many people, particularly in the corporate area, and for business owners as well, who may have gone through some kind of tertiary study and didn't do particularly well at it. This is where imposter syndrome might have begun. And of course, existing mental health issues. If you've already got depression, if you've already got anxiety, if you've already got any number of diagnosed psychological problems, mental illnesses, of course you're going to feel some sort of anxiety when it comes to making decisions and changes and taking big steps in life and in business, because you've already got that barrier to get through before you even get there. So you feel like in a world of people who seem to be motivated and preaching the gospel and going forth and doing great things and setting up massive businesses and being super successful, in a world like that where you're just struggling to wake up in the morning and change your underwear because you're so down and depressed, of course you're going to feel like a fraud when you finally do succeed in something, because your mental illness is going to bring you back, because your imposter syndrome brought on by your mental illness is going to keep bringing you back again to what's easier to do, and that's just to lay there and to feel uncomfortable and depressed and anxious. I'm not giving any kind of mental health advice here. I'm just saying that these things lead to each other. And if you're trying to overcome these things, yes, it's important that you do go and see a professional and address mental health issues, because they will continue to feed things like imposter syndrome. Poor training and mentoring in new roles. This is something I've struck many times in my careers. I've had a few careers now where you sort of get the job and then you just sat in a room and you with a computer and you're like, get to work. I remember one of my earlier jobs that I had with Optus in a call center. We went through 4 weeks of training before we were even allowed to go out onto the floor. We did so much practicing, so much shadowing, so much buddying, so much training side by side, so much psychological training to deal with people as they're calling you. 4 weeks before we even hit the call and started to take those calls from customers. It was amazing, like that level of training. But then most of the jobs I've been in, which have been smaller businesses, have been a case of turn up, here's your systems, here's your email, get to work, buddy. And then when you make mistakes or you don't know what you're doing, you have to question yourself and go, why did they hire me? I'm a constant screw up. I'm constantly messing this up. I'm a failure. I'm a fraud. I must have somehow tricked them into employing me because I'm not made for this. Now, a little secret here, every new business you're going to start, every job you're going to begin, is going to feel like that. For the first couple of weeks, you're going to feel totally incompetent. And that's the whole point of training, about mentoring, about people helping you to get ready and get going with it. When I first started with this program, in fact, I had to learn new systems. I had to learn how to reach out to people and get them to register the right way. And sometimes I'd do it so wrong. I wouldn't do the reporting right, or I'd mess something up, and it just wouldn't go the way it's meant to go. And I'd be going, oh gosh, am I ever going to get good at this? Am I ever going to get good at this? This seems like a stupid procedure. And then you got used to it. And now it's just part of the day. Setting up for a webinar, it's just something you do. Going to meetings, just something you do. Preparing for a one-to-one client contact meeting, you know what to do and you know how to finish it and you know how to move on to the next step of it. You have processes that are now embedded into your habits that allow you to do it. So if you don't have those things and you're just forced to just wing it, then of course you're going to feel like a failure and a fraud. That's not on you. That's on your workplace. Or if in case it is your business, yeah, that kind of is on you. You might be the person who's actually perpetuating that by causing that problem in other people who are working for you. So moving past it, what do? How do we address this and move past it? The first thing I'm going to say is that you probably need to open up and be honest with at least someone. And I'm going to take a bet that if you are feeling like imposter syndrome is a thing that you're going through, you probably haven't told anyone about this. Your best friends may not know about it. Your closest colleague may not know about it. Your boss probably definitely doesn't know about it. Your family doesn't know about it. This is something which you're struggling with alone. I did a study back in 2016 as part of my master's thesis in business information systems, which talked a little bit about this. And it found that 77% of those who talked with a friend, partner, or family member about their imposter syndrome felt that it contributed positively to them overcoming it. It's a good first step. Opening up and talking about it has to be, you shouldn't, as Brene Brown would say, we don't tell our stories to just anybody. People have to earn the right to be able to receive our stories. So this has to be someone close to you who is not going to dump you, judge you, or somehow put you out to pasture just because you have opened up to them with something intensely and incredibly personal. So you choose your audience wisely. LinkedIn is not your audience. Facebook is not your audience. I'm talking about one person, just one person to open up to, and it will make a significant difference to your ability to be able to move on with this. And if you can't find a one person in your life to do it, open up to a professional, whether it's a therapist or even a mentor in a digital solutions session or something like that, where you can open up and go, yeah, that's me. This is what that struggle is. That at least gets you on the path to be able to move past it. Secondly, by focusing on the facts and not the feelings, you'll understand that your feelings about your own success and abilities are actually irrelevant. The facts are in the outcomes. The outcomes are that people in your life love you. You got the job after you were vetted for the job. You got the job done because you got the job done. And you won the award because you were judged the winner. And this is a very big mindset shift, which I don't expect you to be able to do overnight, but I expect that something which with a little practice, this might be able to become part of your life. It's like looking at a dead flower and saying the flower is dead because the flower is dead. It's not putting any extra judgments or stories around it. You're not trying to wrap it all up in a story to justify anything. You're just saying what it is. So when you look at just the facts, not the feelings, the sky is gray, it's raining. You're not then ascribing a meaning to that. It's raining because it always rains when I want to do something special. The sky is gray because every time I want to go out and take photos, the sky happens to be gray. You're ascribing some personal fault of yours towards a judgment on something which you have no control over whatsoever. Nobody turned up to my webinar because I must be a terrible presenter. Whether I say then instead, nobody turned up to my webinar because nobody turned up to my webinar. I don't need to explore the reasons for that. For me personally, I can look at it and go, well, I'm not really in control of the amount of people who can come to my webinar. So it's no reflection on me. Or I can simply just go into imposter syndrome land and go, yeah, well, it's because everyone can see I'm a failure and a fraud. So therefore they're not coming to my webinars. It can really change the world for you, not just with imposter syndrome, but everything else. Now, just because you don't feel like you fit in, you like to be a bit of a loner, doesn't mean it's actually a bad thing. Sometimes not fitting in is actually a good thing. People who are good at what they do, they tend to stand out. So those kind of people, standing out's not a bad thing, even though in this society, in this particular country, we tend to have this tall poppy syndrome thing where we just continually cut down those who are doing so much better than us. It's out of a sense of jealousy, it's out of a sense of, misplaced equality. People who've worked on their brand, they are the ones that stand out. People who help others often, they stand out. Friendly, inclusive, knowledgeable people, people who are better at something than others, they will stand out. These are not bad things. They're all actually phenomenally good things. It's amazing to be stand out, but it doesn't make you a failure or a fraud if you don't stand out. And it doesn't make you a failure or a fraud because you're not a particularly sociable person. You can be as introverted as you like and still be highly successful and good at what you do. How you feel about that, that's the imposter syndrome. When you're going, oh, I'm only really doing this because, I might be good at this, but that's only because I'm really bad at being around people. When you go back to that previous point where you focus on the facts and not the feelings, the sky is blue because the sky is blue, not because the sky is blue because I like blue. It's not, I'm saying that nobody turned up to your workshop because nobody turned up my workshop. It's instead you trying to justify that somehow. No one turned up my workshop because I'm a loner and nobody likes me. Another area is you can't really know everything straight away. Remember back to the idea of starting in a new job. You can either get the 4 weeks training, so you're utterly prepared when you hit the floor, or you just get thrown in, they say, here's your computer, off you go. It's natural when you're starting something new that you won't get everything right. You can't get away with making no mistakes at all on the way to success. You're going to make a ton of them. I've made tons. I've lost probably in the realm of a couple of $1 million at least, just the mistakes I've made over business. And you look at that and go, a couple of $1 million. Oh my God. It's amazing how that adds up. It adds up mighty quick when it comes to business, when you're dealing with expensive products and expensive services. It's just that not everyone's talking about their failures. And because people tend to not talk about their failures and only talk about successes, and they only tend to celebrate success and tell people about success, it's stigmatized failure. It means then that the slightest failure makes us feel like a fraud, that we're not able to or competent of carrying out anything because no one talks about it. Asking questions doesn't make you weak. In fact, I say in any of my live workshops, when I'm sitting down a group of people, the only stupid question is not asking that question. No question is stupid because it's my responsibility to make sure the knowledge is shared with you. It's your responsibility to make sure you get the most out of this that you can. Needing guidance or even extra time to be able to carry out a task doesn't make you dumb, stupid, or incompetent. What it makes you is wanting to do the thing right. And when you want to do that thing right, you really want to be able to carry this thing out the best way you possibly can, then you will take extra time. And as you do it more and more, you get better at it, right? If you keep forcing yourself to work at everybody else's pace, then you're going to make more mistakes and feel like a failure. And it's going to make you feel like more of a failure every time you make a mistake. So give yourself a break. This one is really important because it's so not done. Celebrating the wins. The next time someone says something nice to you about your work, about you, about what you look like, say thank you. Doesn't matter, unless they're being really sleazy about it. In that case, just like go, oh, walk away. But if someone compliments you on your work, thank them. You don't need to bookend the win with justifications about how you got there, or how you've been lucky, you've got just natural talent, you haven't really had to work hard, everyone really did, it's a team effort, it's a team job. Take the win. There's sometimes in life we feel like we've got so few wins coming our way, so why would you throw away a win when it comes your way? Celebrate the win, accept the compliment, and then practice the habit then of also congratulating others on their wins as well. It actually becomes easier for you to accept your wins when you're someone who's generous with your compliments of what you achieved. I won't forget the time when a young fella who won an award at the Northern Territory Digital Awards this year, he was surprised that he won. He was so happy to have won. He was so humble in his winning, but he accepted it with a big smile and he was so proud of himself. And I saw him working in his side gig job and at a function center, and I walked up and said, "Oh, you're X, aren't you?" And he said, "Yeah, hi." And he's a bit awkward. I said, "Oh no, I saw you at the Digital Awards. You won an amazing prize for the work you did on early detection of DDoS attacks in cybersecurity." He was like, "You remember that? Oh my God!" And he was so impressed that I remembered who he was, what he won, and what he actually won it for. So therefore, that's part of my therapy, my internal therapy, to be able to better accept compliments, to better accept people saying that I've done something good, is that I then become better at telling other people how they got good. That's one of the things that my mentor actually helped me with and actually got me to do. If you want to be able to accept praise and without bookending it with all these justifications and all these things that make you look like a dumb idiot, then start complimenting other people, but be very genuine and specific about it. Don't just say, yeah, well done, mate. Go, hey, well done. I like the way that you did this, this, and this. That was brilliant, mate. Well done. And then the better you get at telling other people, you'll also recognize imposter syndrome in them, which will flag back to you when you go, oh my goodness, that's what I do. That's so ugly and so awkward. I should not do that anymore. Celebrate the wins, okay? And then delay the judgment. If you feel it creeping up, and you're going, I just have to put myself down again. Well, then don't have to blurt out to everybody you got this imposter syndrome thing. Pull it back a bit. Don't tell everyone. Just tell your one person if you need to, or message them and say, oops, I just had an imposter syndrome moment. And then they go, yeah, you know what? You can get better at this. Just make sure the next person you accept the compliment. Do a deal with yourself as well, that you won't harshly judge yourself until you've been at the task for a certain amount of time. And this is what I mean is if you just started your business last week and you haven't managed to finish that course, or you haven't managed to achieve that milestone, don't beat yourself up about it because you only started last week. No one's expecting you to be brilliant today. You'll get brilliant at it later. You don't have to be a genius yet. Be a genius down the track. Delay your judgment till when you've actually done enough hard work to be able to objectively judge your work. Because for now, you're too early in. As a small business owner, you're too soon. If you're not yet, in a position where your side gig or your small business is supporting you financially, then you're not yet in the position to be able to harshly judge yourself. You're not there yet. Once you're in the position where you are successful, then you can look at things through a fine-tooth comb and actually say, this is what I need to do. This is what I need. And you can be then very objectively critical, but not full of criticism. You know what I mean? That's where you go, you're critiquing something as an outside observer saying, I can see how this would have been better if I had done it this way, rather than saying, you're such an idiot. Why didn't you do it in that first place, in the way of first place? You're such a fraud and a fake and a sham. That's where the mind goes. So delaying that judgment until you've actually done the achievement, it's probably a hard one to do. Stick to this one, celebrating the wins first, and celebrate other people's wins with them as well. And start doing that on LinkedIn and Facebook. Start congratulating people on the things that they've done. They've taken the moment to actually shine. Let them shine. By watching them shine and seeing how it really fills their cup, you'll see how the same thing can fill your cup.